everyone. Welcome to Meet an Entrepreneur. My name is Deborah. As always, I will be your host on this show. And Happy New Year this year, 2021. This is the first time, this is our first podcast on this platform for 2021. I'm wishing you a very happy new year. Hopefully, it's better than what everybody has experienced last year, 2020. Without further ado, I'll go ahead and bring to the camera our today's guest. Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for asking. So, welcome to Meet an Entrepreneur. Do you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about who you are?
My name is Nicole Lewis. I'm an author, a speaker, a consultant, a mother, a grandmother, and many more things.
You look too young to be a grandmother, and I didn't know you were a mother. Well, we will talk all about it. So, once again, welcome to the show. This is Meet an Entrepreneur, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. If you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to post them in the comment box. And if you're watching from the Meet an Entrepreneur page, we will be able to see your comment and project them. Also, you can watch us live from YouTube. When you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to watch us live. Thank you so much for joining once again, Nicole. Welcome. So, you just told us who you are. You are an owner, speaker, author, a trainer, a mom, a grandma, a female entrepreneur, and I mean, people that know you, you have great things to share about. So, it looks like we have a comment here. Okay, we have Desiree. She said, hello, ladies. Hello, Desiree. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Meet an Entrepreneur. So, Nicole, are you ready?
I am so
Excellent.
excited.
So, my first question. So, tell me about your life, your belief system, your ideology, and the I love me, I accept me, and who I will be movement. By the way, I love that.
So a little bit about me. I have wrote my first book in 2018, which kind of covers quite a bit of the trauma from my childhood. I was a mother at 13. I graduated high school along with my class. Um, I have been several different places in my life. I ended up with a sex addiction. I was, I've been in what they consider recovery for 16 years now. Um, so I've been through a lot of different things in my life, through child abuse, through sexual trauma. Obviously, I've been raped, um, neglected, um, just a lot of different things in my life. Uh, but my belief system kind of kept me through that whole process of everything in the world happens for a reason, and understanding that I may not understand that reason at the moment, but it will come into fruition sooner or later. I did not start this journey wanting to be an entrepreneur or a business owner or a speaker or a writer. Um, so this has just been like, as they say, the journey unfolds before you. I'm along for the roller coaster. So that's kind of how I view the world. And I started my business, I Love Me Enterprises, because how often do you say, I love you? You always say, I love you to other people, but you never say, I love me. But you can't love anybody if you don't first love yourself. So that is my philosophy, is learning to love yourself first, because that's the only way that you can love other people.
Wow, very interesting. Wow. So, I mean, just by your introduction, we can start a lot of topics. I hope we have enough time today to, just tackle few of them. And obviously, if people have questions, follow-up questions, they can get a hold of you at www.nicolelewis.com, right?
Correct.
All right. So you said in your introduction that you became a mom at age 13.
I did.
And then you said you're a grandma.
I am.
So how many children do you have?
I have three.
You have three, and how many grandkids?
One. So my
One.
first baby just turned a year old in October.
I'm sorry?
He just turned a year old in October.
Oh, wow. You say he, so a boy.
Mm-hmm.
You're a proud grandma. Congratulations. So tell me about the recovery program that you went through. You said it was what kind of recovery?
So I recovered from sex addiction.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, please.
So my recovery process was non-traditional. I tried the route of going through therapy. I tried the route of going through support groups, and that didn't work for me. I was lucky enough to find a gentleman who helped me through the process. So we did a lot of spiritual development in that process. We did a lot of fasting, a lot of praying, and facing things head on, being completely honest and transparent about everything. And that whole process that we went through is actually going to be in a book that's coming out very soon.
Oh, wow. We have another one coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, at what age did you realize that you needed some recovery program?
So I was roughly about 21. I had lost custody of my children. I was homeless, extremely depressed, and I started looking at where I was. So I was going to school, I was working, I was doing all the things that would appear to other people that I was um, successful in managing things. However, um, when nobody was looking, when nobody was around, I was really heavy into my addiction. And that addiction started taking me further and further down a negative road for myself. And one day, I was engaged in a relationship with a young man um, who we didn't establish actually as a relationship. And he found out about my past and about my history. And I had to face myself in that moment. And in that moment was the first time I ever told anybody about everything that I had been through, all the things that I was currently doing. And he accepted me for who I was. And he said, okay, well, we're going to stop having sex, first thing, and we're going to move forward on just being friends. We have now been married going on 16 years.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. So, he is actually your husband.
Hmm.
Are you having a feedback on your end?
I'm not.
Okay. I'm hearing a feedback. I'm not sure if it's coming from my end, but hey, let's continue. It's technology. So, that's quite interesting, So this young man told you we're going to stop having sex.
Yep.
Wow. Interesting. So how did that process go? Was he like a therapist, counseling, or what was his belief?
He had newly started going to church and he had newly started deciding for himself that he needed to develop himself. So he was making a transformation in his own personal life before we met. And so he just said, come along with me. He invited me out to church. It had been a while since I had been to church. I had been away from the church for a long time, just dealing with some of the things that happened in the church for me. And it just kind of went from there.
So he is a Christian.
I would say that he's more spiritual now.
He's more spiritual, but at that time, what was like the religion that he practiced?
Baptist.
Okay, so he's a Christian, like a Baptist Christian. Wow. And then after that, did you like seek like professional counseling?
Nope. We've just been on this journey together.
It I believe it took a lot of determination and also um please correct me if I'm wrong, but I can tell that this young man, your today's husband, I can tell that he really loved you, right?
He did. It took a while because, and this is where my I love me comes from, is that I couldn't accept his love for me until after I learned how to love myself. So in the process, he loved me more than I loved myself. And so I learned had to learn how to love who I was and accept the things that I had done.
And when you cannot accept someone else's love, did you, like, throughout the process, did you reject him?
No, we just, so during our process, we did a lot of fasting and a lot of praying. Um, and so it wasn't necessarily rejection. It was something completely brand new to me. I had never been with somebody who told me they didn't want to have sex with me. And so to hear those kind of things, at, and that was kind of one of the issues that we had at the very beginning, how our actual transformation actually took place, is that we was having sex, and he made the decision. He said, "Well, we can't keep having sex. I'm supposed to be celibate," and I was like, "Okay." But we made the decision together to go ahead and continue that process.
So how long did you practice, like, abstinence?
We, from the day that, so for our journey, we had our first date on October 29th, and then we got married 1 year later.
Okay.
But for about 10 months, we were celibate.
Nice. That's quite interesting. So, today you are a speaker and author, and you are a trainer, and your area of practice, you talk a lot about sexual addiction. Do you have a lot of people? Like, what is the audience like? Is
There,
it
so
significant?
it is. So I look at the sex addiction a little bit differently than the mainstream media does. Oftentimes we hear women called hoes or hood rats or thoughts or whatever the new term is for the moment. But promiscuous women is usually who I deal with most, as women don't seem to see that as an addiction. And so I'm looking at it as an addiction versus it just being a character flaw.
Can you tell me from your experience and engaging with um, this, population, what do you believe is the number one cause of sexual addiction?
I believe so. I look at it, and there's two folds to it. One is self love. Obviously, if you loved yourself, you wouldn't put yourself into that kind of atmosphere. Secondly, it's a coping mechanism. And so, most of the times, people who have a sex addiction use sex as a way to cope with life, just the same as somebody who is a drug addict or someone who is an alcoholic. They just use that for their their way of coping with things.
So it's a coping mechanism. Okay. And how does that manifest itself, like the that kind of addiction? Do you, like, go from, I don't know, do you just seek that pleasure, or what is it like?
So sex addiction, which is why it's such a hot topic in the psychiatric community and the psychology community, is because it's kind of different from everybody. So you have some people who just have multiple partners. You have some people who do masturbation excessively. Um, some people do mutilation. Some people do illegal activities. It just kind of, it really depends. Some people get obsessed with um, porn or images. So it kind of varies.
So what are some of the techniques that you use to help your clients?
So a lot of the things that I do is first being honest. So I take them through a step process. First, acknowledging that it's kind of is very similar to the 12-step program, but it's a little bit different. So the 12-step program, you're going to acknowledge first that I'm powerless over whatever this is. I kind of take back um, that victimization, take back that control. Oftentimes, when you have an addiction, especially a sex addiction, it's a control thing. You have to have something to control. So why not control yourself and control your own behaviors? Um, and so, looking at first acknowledging, accepting, forgiving yourself, and then facing it head on. So there's a lot of steps that take place with even just facing it head on. I know for me, confronting individuals who I did participate um, when having sex or having relationships with them was one of those.
So tell me, what was the origin of your addiction?
Um, so my addiction, even though I went through a whole bunch of stuff as a child, um, mine was really the lack of love that I had for myself and the lack of love that I thought I deserved. So I had a gentleman. We had two children together. So my first two are by the same gentleman, and I assumed that God had sent him to me. We were supposed to get married, um, and he decided he didn't want me. So I just felt completely rejected from everybody, and so I just kind of put up this wall. And so if this is all that I'm good for, then this is what I'm going to be.
All right. So right now, you told me you are also in school to become a psychologist.
Correct.
When did you decide to, take that path?
So I have been speaking for over 12 years now, maybe a little bit longer, on this topic. And in 2008 and 2009, I had actually started speaking, and just in that process, it's just kind of evolved. So I did go to school for chemical dependency counseling. I didn't go get my license only because I when I get involved, I get my heart involved. So I feel like I'm responsible for the other person. Um, but in that process, I was also writing a book. So it took me 8 years for me to write my book. So it's just been this progression along the way. But I've seen in our community, more specifically, that in the counseling realm, when you're dealing with sex addiction, A, there's very few sex addiction therapists that are here locally. B, very few of them are women, if any, none of them Black women. And so dealing with the cultural division in counseling services that are available outside of traditional counseling. So there is definitely a lot of African American women who are therapists locally. They just don't specialize in sex addiction or child sexual trauma.
Quite interesting. So, what standard do you set for yourself?
I am a busybody. So for me, I'm always learning something new, always creating something. I went to school for textiles and fashion design, so that's another part of what I do. Um, so I'm always I feel like the moment that you stop learning is the moment that you start dying. And that's kind of my philosophy that I set for myself. I always make sure that I set my boundaries. That was something that took me a long time, especially dealing with my sex addiction, that I had to learn was how to say no to people and then how to stand firmly on my own personal beliefs and understanding.
Okay. Wow. We will take a quick break. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go away. We will be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us. And today, like we said, we have a very special guest. Her name is Nicole Louis, owner, speaker, author, a trainer, and she has a very interesting story. She consults with organizations and small businesses. She writes curriculum, she does curriculum development. She holds a degree in business administration, chemical dependency counseling, and like we said, she is currently pursuing her degree in psychology. She enjoys touching the lives of her audience, her clients, by sharing her story. And she was just telling us about her story, which has a lot to do with sexual addiction, and also she dedicated her life to assisting women to make better decisions, and to develop life skills and learn to accept themselves. And one of her um, topics that she covers is coaching, sex addiction, relationship development. And I'm going to bring her back to the camera. Hi, Nicole.
Hello, Deborah.
Welcome back. So we were talking about how you help women with a whole lot of issues to include sex addiction, and you were telling us about your life story and the book that you wrote that has to do with your life story, obviously. And I mean, it's quite interesting, your story and how you use, your weakness and how you were able to overcome this addiction, and now you're turning, you're giving back to the community by helping and building this empire of yours. And I mean, it's quite interesting. So you were in workshop on how to walk in heels in grace. Is that what it
Correct.
is?
Yep.
Okay, and then one of the theme also was, despite your past, you desire love, and then having hard conversations.
Correct.
Let's talk about the first one, how to walk in heels in grace.
So I do a 2-hour workshop on how to walk in heels. I kind of cover a basis of the history of heels. I talk about tips and tricks on how to walk in heels. As women, we find those heels that are so gorgeous, and then they just sit on the shelf because we can't wear them. So I do extensive workshop on that. I also talk and show you how to do some massages. So if you need to take a break, you can go to the bathroom and massage your feet real quick, get right back up, and nobody knows that your feet was hurting. I also go over how to sit with your wearing heels. I go over how to walk properly in your heels. I go over how to really pick out your shoes. Oftentimes, women pick out the wrong shoes for themselves. So those are quite a bit of the things that I go over in that 2-hour workshop.
That's very interesting. And then you talk also about, despite your past, you desire love.
And in that workshop, I'm very open and honest about my past and about the things that I've been through. And then just kind of showing everybody how important it is to just first accept and acknowledge who you are, and then understand that love is still there, that you can still find love despite your past.
And then one of your workshop is having hard conversations.
Yeah, that one, I make sure that we go over how to have those conversations that you need to have, but it's very, very hard and difficult, which is why I wrote my book. My book is a conversation starter, so that if there's a topic that somebody wants to be able to talk about but don't know where to start, where to begin, or how to have that conversation, obviously sometimes having another person's story instead of starting with your own story helps with that process. So I go over extensively on how to go over that, opening up that door of open and honest communication.
So your book is titled A Girl's Secret. All right. So tell me about it.
So that this is a first book of a series. This is goes over from age 5 up into high school, It covers a lot of different things. If you think somebody could have went through it, I probably went through it. So it's kind of uh, it's really crazy because that's it's my life. It's 100% true. The only thing I changed was people's names in the book. Um, Majority of it happened here in Omaha, between Omaha and Iowa, so it's very local to this area. Um, but just you never know what somebody's going through. You never know what somebody's been through when you first see them. A lot of times people look at me and they're like, "You're so well put together. I wouldn't expect that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but as women, we learn how to deal with life and just kind of roll with the punches. This is kind of an outlet and it allows people to see that they're not alone. Oftentimes we go through stuff and we feel like we're alone in that process and that there's no silver lining to the dark cloud that's over us right now. But
So you mentioned when you were telling us about your story that you were in a relationship early on and you thought this was actually going to be your husband, and then he didn't want you. So that was rejection. How do
mhm.
you help someone that comes with you with rejection issues, especially when it comes to this type of relationships when the woman wants the guy, but the guy doesn't want him and just reject her?
So I focus a lot on self love and self care. Obviously, once you love yourself and you're in that space where you really truly love yourself, you'll see somebody before you'll see their reciprocal love before it ever gets to that point of them rejecting you. There was a lot of signs along the way that I didn't pay attention to because I just assumed this is what love looks like. So we also talk about what does love look like, what and unfortunately a lot of people have lost sight of what real love looks like because it starts within yourself, and unfortunately our society has beaten a lot of that out of us.
So you do believe that if a woman loves herself, she wouldn't like allow that relationship to continue.
Correct.
Why is it so difficult for women to let go of those relationships?
Usually it's because it's tied to the idea of love. It's not and the idea of attachment, and it is part of an addiction. A same, it's called codependency. So that is another aspect of finding value, only finding value for yourself if somebody else finds you valuable.
Okay, can you say that again?
Yep. So oftentimes it's you only find value within yourself in those situations if somebody else finds value within you. So even though they may treat you wrong, they may disrespect you, in your mind, you think, well, nobody else wants me, nobody else cares about me. And you lose that self um, self love for yourself.
So, how would you define love?
Love is understanding. That's the easiest way that I can put it. Um, you can't love something that you don't understand and that you're not willing to understand.
So, love is understanding, and you cannot love something that you do not understand.
Correct.
That is deep. Wow. How did you come to that definition of love?
It was through that year that me and my husband spent fasting and praying and really working on who we were as an individual. Um, so that allowed me that opportunity to really take a step back and really look at what love actually really was. You have, I grew up with a single mother, and without affection and knowing what love was, I never actually, at that time growing up, I didn't actually see it. And so I thought when I had my children, I thought, okay, I'm taking care of them. This is what love looks like. That's not the whole core part of love. It's knowing how somebody feels. When you can see, you should know yourself well enough to go, I'm not feeling well right now. I'm upset. I'm angry, I'm disappointed, and be able to accept that about yourself and say, these are the things that I need to do so that I feel better about myself.
Wow, I love that. So, what are some of the organizations that you work with, on your workshops?
So I work with MOWBC, I've worked with Girls Inc., I've worked with the Urban League of Nebraska, um, I've worked with DCYC a little bit, so Douglas County Youth Center. I've worked with other organizations that are not official organizations, but dance groups who have been doing dance for 20 years, just never incorporated themselves.
Oh, wow.
So a number of different organizations.
All right. So my next question is, anything you want to share that most people don't know about, and it can be just, anything, something that, well, at this point, I don't know if anything embarrasses you still, but I mean, whatever you want to share. I know you've shared a lot in your book and throughout your speaking engagement, but is there something that most people don't know about?
So I would say that actually being in crowded spaces is one of my uncomfortabilities. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily afraid of it, um, but just being in large crowded places is one of mine. And unfortunately, right now we can't be in crowded places, so it's kind of a benefit for me.
Oh, wow. So, how do you manage when you have to, um, honor a speaking engagement?
So a speaking engagement is for some reason it's like night and day for me. I'm a homebody for the most part. I guess that's something else that not a lot of people know. um, but when I'm out and I'm speaking, I do a lot of fasting beforehand and a lot of spiritual preparation before I go do that. So I've prepared myself to be in those spaces.
Okay. Okay. And then we've been talking about this 2020, a year full of uncertainties, and with the current development of the events in the US, the elections, and everything that we know about that we're still, it's still happening, we're still experiencing and living. How do you use your business to make a positive impact in this environment?
So it's kind of different. So in my business, I usually do a lot of speaking engagements, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of one-on-one conversations. I do a lot of vending at different locations. I do a lot of workshops in person. So one of the things that I have done is I recognize that a lot of business owners are now going from being business owners to wanting to offer courses. So what I've been doing is developing curriculum for those that are normally wouldn't do curriculum, normally wouldn't do presentations, normally wouldn't host classes.
Mm-hmm.
But now they are finding themselves in that space because we're now moving a lot of stuff online. So where my strength is, I know a lot of people have that weakness in. And so that's my way of contributing is saying, hey, don't stress out about this. I've got you. Um, just let me know what you're wanting and I can put that together for you.
Nice. Anything that you would like to add to everything that we already talked about?
I do make head wraps. So this is not one of them, but I do make head wrap sets, which is a head wrap and a mask set. And so I will be putting those up on Facebook here soon for Black History Month. That was kind of a hobby of mine, and then it's just kind of taken off. um, but I figure we're on here wearing masks all the time. Why not have fun with it? So I make a lot of fun masks. A lot of I'm getting into my girly stage in my life, so a lot of bling, a lot of things that make me feel pretty and look good. So
Wow. Yeah, I remember I had a photo shoot with one of my businesses, and the actual director that was, directing the photo shoot, she had you come with some of your head wraps. You can see that on my Afro Swag page for those that are watching. Yes, I mean, I didn't know you made those. Very talented. Interesting. So, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for being on this show. You know, if you need her services, she's available, and you can find her by going to her website, www.nicolelewis.com. And like we said, she is an author, speaker, author, trainer, and she handles a lot of sex addiction workshops and how to love yourself. I love me. Did I say it right? Okay,
Yep.
I love me, and um, let me find it. Give me just a second. If you want to help, okay, here it is. I love me. I accept me and who I will be. Wow. I'm letting that sink in. I'm talking to myself right now. I love me.
Perfect.
I accept me and who I will be. You know, that's a movement.
It is. Normally, when I do my workshops, I always give out mirrors, just so people can have that in their purse, and for you to, if you get a chance to, just look at yourself in your mirror, look at yourself in the eyes, and repeat that.
Okay, I'm going to practice. I love me, I accept me, and who I will be. That's so beautiful. And yeah, you're right. We don't say that very often. We say, I love you, I love this, I want this, but I love me, and I accept me, and who I will be. Thank you so much for being on the show, and stay connected, guys. If you need Nicole Louis services and her products with the head wrap and mask, you can contact her, get in touch with her today. You can put a comment in the comment box, and then she will get back to you guys. Thank you, Nicole. Well, thank you everyone that tuned in today. Thank you for being on the show. This is Meet an Entrepreneur. Like we every week bring an entrepreneur in the community, usually from the minority community. If you consider yourself like belonging to a minority group and you are an entrepreneur, we are welcome to have you on this platform. And if you have questions, don't feel free to, you know, send an email to contact@bseal. You can see at the bottom of the screen, contact@bseals.com. We also do commercials if you need that service or sponsorship or even guest appearances. Don't hesitate to contact us at contact@bseals.com. Until next, have a very good weekend. Be safe out there. Here in Omaha, Nebraska, we are experiencing a blizzard today. Until next, bye bye.